to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Present.
Present.
Here.
Here. Yes. We were contacted by a couple of families who had, unfortunately, had children affected by pediatric cancer. They reached out to Monmouth County freeholders in the state, and I reached out to a couple other towns. So a lot of the surrounding towns, Monmouth County, and the state are all going to dedicate September as Gold Month, and it's for awareness of pediatric cancer. I have a couple of resolutions in front of me that I'd like to read, and on Friday, my wife, myself, and a couple of other people we have going out, we're going to decorate the town with gold ribbons. And the other town's going to do similar things too. Whereas 36 children in the United States will be diagnosed with cancer each day, and at an average age of 6 years old. 1 out of 5 children diagnosed with cancer will not survive the disease. The types of cancer that affect children are most often very different from those that affect adults. Childhood cancer is not just one disease, but it's made up of a dozen types and countless subtypes of cancer. Childhood cancer spares no socioeconomic, ethnic, racial, or geographic class. Pediatric cancer is the leading cause of death by disease in U.S. children under 15 years of age. Most pediatric cancers are largely unknown and not strongly linked to lifestyle, unlike adult cancers. Two-thirds of childhood cancer patients will develop long-lasting chronic conditions resulting from treatment. Childhood cancer rates have been rising for the past few decades, and approximately 11,630 children in the U.S. under the age of 15 will be diagnosed with cancer in 2013. Cancer kills more kids than AIDS, asthma, cystic fibrosis, diabetes, and muscular dystrophy combined. In the last 25 years, only 2 drugs have been specifically developed for children's cancer. Less than 5% of the federal government's total funding for cancer research is dedicated to childhood cancers, and only 3% of the funds raised from the National Cancer Institute go directly to pediatric cancer research. The funding for pediatric cancer research has gone down steadily since 2003. Despite the facts, childhood cancer research is vastly and consistently underfunded. Despite major advances in treatment, it is still critically important to conduct research and increase awareness regarding pediatric cancer. Therefore, I, Frank Nolan, Mayor of the Borough of Highlands, do hereby proclaim September 2013 Childhood Cancer Awareness Month in Highlands in order to help raise awareness of pediatric cancer. We'd like to have Darlene Debo, Marita Carhart, and Maria Tovak come up tonight. And we're going to do this in memory of Riley Franklin, Sean Carhart, and Rachel Tovak. Unfortunately, some of the children have passed, and some are still fighting. Folks, how about just a round of support, obviously.
The whole point of the Go Gold movement is that we want gold to be as popular as pink. Everybody knows what pink stands for. Pink is town pink. And the great strides that doing all the pink stuff has done for breast cancer. We want gold to do that for pediatric cancer. Too many babies and children are dying because they don't have the right treatments. We have here a survivor who will tell you her story.
Hello everybody, my name is Rachel Kovach and I am a cancer survivor. When I was only 11 years old, I was diagnosed with a rare form of bone cancer. I went through 14 rounds of chemotherapy treatment and an additional surgery to remove my infected bone and replace with a cobalt chrome endoprosthesis, or in other words, just a rod to replace most of my bone. I have so many friends that have been affected by cancer, whether it be through siblings or themselves being diagnosed. I've had too many friends actually pass away because of cancer, and whole, and like Rita said, we want gold to be as popular as pink. We don't want to see another child die of such a horrible disease. And we just need the support, and that's why we're going to have Highlands Go Gold, and that's why I want to thank all of you and Town Council for making September Childhood Cancer Awareness Month here in Highlands.
Thank you.
Can't follow that.
Thank
you.
Just tell them the document things.
Oh,
I spoke to a mom last night who told me that her child was treated in Morristown, and in that treatment center alone, they've had 50 new cases since January, in just that treatment center. They have no, like this says, the treatments that they're given are adult drugs, titrated down for the smaller bottles. And to watch a child have to go through the pain and the side effects are almost worse than the cancer itself. And to watch a child die that way is horrific.
I just want to add that we're going to have window claims with gold ribbons available by the end of the week. That businesses and we'll have a smaller version for your cars if anybody wants to make a donation and get one of those claims. I guess we'll get that would be great.
If anybody takes it at the end, I'll just let you know, my phone number, email, and I'll get them out to you.
Thank you, Ken.
Go, go.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Anybody have anything on the consent agenda they want to take all, talk about?
I'd like to talk about 187 and potential deputy.
Sure. Okay.
I actually had just emailed Tim. I was speaking with Garrett down at Cranky Cycles, and he was talking about some of the issues they were having with the Bayshore Trail not being open. So I did contact Tim in regards to getting a resolution that we could pass showing our support that we need it open for our economic development. Different, you know, it's really hurting us. Yeah, it's really hurting us. Still being down and not going. I know Tara was working with the petition, so we can do that hand in hand together.
Okay, yes, I did set up the petitions, and they were primarily on the Undertown near Frankie's and the coffee shop. I've been collecting them and making copies, and along with the letter, with the ordinance, and copies of all of the signatures, they will be going to Governor Christie, to Frank Colonna, to the head of the Monmouth County Park System, the Henry Hudson Trail. But I want to let you know that these petitions are still going to be all through town. If you haven't signed them, you can still sign them, and I'll be collecting them every week. Okay, so we want to get that open to have people come to town and spend their money in town. Thank you. It's on. Okay? Okay? All right.
Question for Councilman Ryan.
Yes.
Is there any truth to the rumor that this Bayshore Trail issue is tied up with a private resident wanting to stop the trail because he wanted to develop space for kayak launching and whatever?
Chris, there are many rumors. I have contacted people in Atlantic Highlands, and I know that Tim actually knows more about it than I do, but we can't talk about it because there is potential litigation.
Against the town?
No,
Against the town.
against the county.
Against the county?
Yes.
Yeah.
Monmouth County.
Who's litigating who?
I think the private resident that you may be talking about is and I think on the county website there is, if you go onto the Monmouth County Park System website, there is a very brief blurb about some of the items that they're running into, and one of them does revolve around a resident along that area or residents against doing cleanups along the trail. But that's the extent of what I know as far as potential litigation. It's absolutely been mentioned, but I don't know the person and I know nothing about kayaks.
But there's no attorney privilege with the town, so there's absolutely no reason.
It's not our town. It's Atlantic Highlands.
Exactly, so there's no reason.
Well, it's the
to talk
county
about it.
park system property, and we want to see the county trail open.
So is the
So
plan then to
that's-
send this also to the county park system?
Oh,
Absolutely.
it's on there, right. Okay,
Absolutely.
everything's
And Atlantic
gone.
Avenue?
Yes,
Oh,
and
yes.
also to follow up, we also want to encourage that the DEP and other agencies treat this as a recovery of Sandy, which it is, and possibly offering assistance in fast tracking, funding and/or other, so that they can get the trail open. So we're asking the DEP to get involved as well.
Okay. Anything else anybody wants to talk about?
I'm set with that, with
Yep.
what it said. Everything else I'm okay with.
I'll
Talking to me, I'll second. Ms. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Redmond?
Yes.
Mr. Clancy?
Yes.
Ms. King? Yes. Mayor Miller?
yes. Bruce, you wanted to talk about 13?
Yeah, 190 resolution awarding emergency demolition contract. I just wanted to clarify that the resolution as worded refers to a home and 2 adjacent homes. I just wanted to clarify that it applies to 3 homes, the adjacent home that collapsed, or the home that collapsed and 2 adjacent homes.
Okay. Anybody want to talk to that? I'll second it.
Seconded by Mr. Redmond. Ms. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Redmond?
Yes.
Mr. Clancy? Ms. King? Yes. Mayor Miller?
Yes. DPW temporary seasonal. Ted, is that you or?
I can speak on it, Mayor. Due to the workforce that we do have, we're down to 3 public works employees.
please.
Okay. Due to the circumstances of us having 3 public work employees, and with the vacation schedule coming, we have a seasonal employee that was hired, and I'm recommending if the council would agree to carry that person through the end of September. We do have funding in the budget, and it's a person that has worked since Sandy. He worked on the workforce development program, and we do have bulk pickup and leaf pickup this month as well. So talking to the guys, you know, I understand what they're up against, so that's what my recommendation would be.
And this is an hourly employee?
Hourly employee, and the extension would only be through the end of September at this point.
Okay.
No good.
Okay. I'll offer it.
Motion by Mayor Dillon. Seconded by Ms. King. Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Redmond?
Yes.
Mr. Clancy?
Yes.
Ms. King? Yes. Mayor Miller?
Yes. 13192. Steve, is it you?
Well, this is a capital budget amendment, a requirement whenever a bond ordinance is about to be introduced. That was not included in the original budget. And so this amends the original budget to include this project. That for a bond ordinance that will be on for introduction a little later on tonight.
Okay.
Good.
I'll offer it.
Motion by Mayor Dillon.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mr. Redmond. Ms. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Redmond?
Yes.
Mr. Clancy?
Yes.
Ms. King? Yes. Mayor Miller?
Yes.
There's the 3 additional resolutions under other resolutions. I'll ask the mayor and council to consider R13-193, a resolution amending resolution R-11-95 for professional engineering services related to a non-fair and open contract for T&M Associates regarding the Highland Avenue area reconstruction. Whereas a contract was awarded on or about April 6, 2011 for an amount not to exceed $60,000 for the Highland Avenue area reconstruction, whereas T&M has requested an additional $18,000 for additional services performed beyond the scope of the original contract due to utility conflicts and failures. And whereas the governing body of the Borough of Highlands has agreed to pay the requested amount for a total revised contract of $68,000. That's for your consideration, R13-193.
And yeah, what was the scope of the overages?
Basically, Mayor, as I've talked about previously, the utility issues we had up there, especially at Peak Street, Miller Street, Woodland, we had discrepant information from the utility companies with the information they provided us. A lot of that was the water main failure next to OLPH.
One collapsed.
Yeah, we had about 35,000 overages just between design, inspections, meeting with them, trying to get things hashed out. I mean, they didn't even know where their own lines were. They were out there a couple times blacking out their own markouts, so that's how bad it got. So we've asked for 18,000. We'll eat the rest of it. Obviously, we don't put the full burden on it, but we'd like to get something to compensate extra 18,000 in the contract.
Any discussion at the table? Is everybody up there with that?
Does this close this out?
This closes it out. Yeah, the only thing that's remaining is the last check from the state coming back. It's been submitted. The check should be any day for the remaining 25% of the grant.
So the check is gonna come back and it's done.
Yep, that's it.
And then we're done and everything's done?
Right, just Mr. Padula, that was 78, not 68 on that.
Did I say 68?
You did.
70. 60 plus 18.
Right.
Any questions? I think we were all there, so I'll offer.
I'll second it. Ms. King, Ms. Ryan,
Yes.
Mr. Rickman,
Yes.
Mr. Grigsby,
Yes.
Ms. King,
Yes.
Mayor Miller.
Yes.
Also for your consideration, Resolution R13-193, resolution approving separation agreement and release with Mike Mullen. Whereas the borough formerly employed Mike Mullen and eliminated his position, whereas Mullen's last date of employment was January 31st, 2013, whereas Mullen subsequently instituted a grievance and other litigation concerning the separation of employment, and whereas the parties have amicably resolved the matter in lieu of continuing litigation, and whereas the borough wishes to make final severance payment according to the separation agreement and approve the separation agreement, now therefore be it resolved by the mayor and council of the Borough of Highlands that the borough approves the full and final release and separation agreement and authorizes the mayor to execute the agreement on behalf of the borough. And two, the borough authorizes payment of $2,300 to Mr. Mullen, representing payment of accrued unused leave time in accordance with the contract and in consideration for a full and final release and separation agreement.
And originally it was how much, 7,000?
It was over 7,000.
Anyone have any questions? I mean, basically eliminated the okay, I'll offer it.
I'll second it.
Mr. Rickman, Ms. Ryan,
Yes.
Mr. Rickman.
Yes.
Mr. Grigsby.
Yep.
Ms. King. Yes. Mr. Mayor Miller.
Yes. What's the third one?
Third is regarding C Street and the conference.
And what is that number?
R 13-195, resolution approving an agreement with C Street LLC regarding the September 8, 2013 benefit concert. Whereas Helping Highlands Survivors and Highlands Business Partnership are involved in promoting a benefit concert on September 8, 2013 to benefit the borough and Sandy Ground project to be held at C Street parking lot. And whereas this concert shall provide a benefit to the borough, and whereas the proposed agreement does not require any monetary payment on the part of the borough, that therefore the governing body approves an agreement with C Street in substantially the form attached hereto and incorporated herein, and subject to review and final legal approval, approves the agreement between the borough and C Street related to a facility use agreement for the C Street facility on September 8, 2013.
For the record, the last resolution was 193 twice. It's actually 194 with the law.
Yes, it's 194.
So we all know what we're on. This is basically for the concert on Sunday. It's at 3 o'clock. Help benefit a couple of charities in town. I'm over it.
I'll second this.
Ms. Ryan,
Yes.
Mr. Rickman.
Yes.
Mr. Grigsby.
Yes.
Ms. King. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, the next item, we're just switching the order on the agenda. The public hearing and adoption of O13-16, which was the zoning ordinance, which we had the public hearing last week.
I vote no.
It needs to be moved and seconded for, to open the discussion.
Oh, I'm sorry. Open the discussion. Public hearing, correct?
No, we have a public hearing. Now, final for third reading and adoption, we need
Your
a,
vote, your vote, public hearing.
Yes, it should be on.
It should we have a public hearing? Tonight, we're gonna vote on it.
okay, just need to move it and second it.
I'll second.
Okay.
Offered by Ms. King, seconded by Mayor Miller.
Any discussion? There was, this is, just so the public knows, this is the final vote on the public hearing at the, for the ordinance regarding the MH district. Remember, we had a lengthy public hearing at the last meeting, and the vote on that ordinance was adjourned until this meeting, so this is the vote on that ordinance. Shadow Law, yes.
Is it number 16 or 25?
Yes.
16.
This is 16 is the ordinance that we went through the public hearing, and that we've had all the discussion.
And then we talked about last time, we got all the information, we went back into the executive again, and they came back out.
So at this point, it's back on the table. And it's a vote.
It's been moved and seconded, there's a top for discussion or vote.
I'll vote no.
Well, we go in an
Ms.
order.
Ryan?
I apologize.
No.
Mr. Redmond?
It's not a public hearing now.
Mr. Francie?
No.
Ms. Kane?
No.
Mayor Nolan?
No.
So that ordinance is,
Vote 1316
is defeated.
Okay. What's next? And that's with all the updates from the planning board and the recommendations we gave to council last week. correct?
Yes, the
So
revised,
that because it's a substantial change,
yes.
and you have to have another public hearing.
It will be introduced, if it's approved at first reading right now, it will be then sent to the planning board,
Okay,
referred to the planning board for comment.
so
Then
we do a vote to approve and send to the planning board, or we vote to send?
you're voting to introduce it. Introduction
Not
only.
voting for this now.
Then it's introduced and sent to the planning board. You will
So
then,
it's one vote or two, that's all I'm asking.
one vote.
Okay, so I vote to introduce it and send it to the planning board.
We need a, so, we moved its introduction, now you need a second.
Second.
Mr. Redmond?
With all the additions that we talked, that we got the feedback.
No, this is the
Each
same.
number, no.
Yes.
Ms. Ryan?
Sure. Right now, what's happening is we're moving it with all the major changes, that's deemed legally major changes, that's not my opinion. And we're sending it back to our planning board. That's how it went the first time too.
We are not voting to approve.
So all we're voting tonight is to move it and send it to the planning board for their comments. If they make major comments again and it's deemed major changes, it has to be reintroduced again with those changes at another and then another public hearing. There's going to be at least one more council meeting with a public hearing before this is voted on at this table.
Thank you.
Yeah. So right now the plan is to send it to the planning board meeting. I believe it's September 12th, next Thursday, which is usually in that room down the hall. The library.
Yes. The media room.
The media room. I apologize.
Who will make the decision, how will it get judged a substantial change or not?
What do you mean it's a substantial change?
Is it, at this point, you may only left open the prospect that it could go to planning board and get judged, it's not a substantial change.
No. They can make more recommendations that are deemed substantial.
So in effect.
It is a substantial change.
This is a brand new word.
Brand new
Brand new order.
So the clock has completely restarted.
Yes, correct.
Right. The other one,
So
16
the clock has
is dead.
completely
16
restarted.
is dead, this is a new.
So the ordinance we talked about last meeting is voted down 5-0.
So it has to be re-noticed again?
That's the whole process.
Yes.
And then we schedule
And there'll be at least one more public hearing. Plus a planning, we don't know that, because planning board might take more than 1 week. If they don't, then they send it right back to us, it'll be the next council meeting. That's what we're saying tonight, it's gonna be October.
Yes. There will be public notice that the ordinance has been proposed. You'll be able to get a copy of the ordinance at that point in time.
That's what we got at town hall.
Yes, tomorrow, it'll be available.
So you'll be able to get it at town hall tomorrow.
And when is that planning board meeting?
Sorry?
That's open to the public, though. Where is it?
Right now, in the same building here, but it's the
Media
media
room.
room, it's, you first come in, it's the first left.
Or it might be in here. They anticipate.
If it's a larger crowd, then they have to move it,
But
okay?
it will be in
So
this
that's-
building.
Usually it's not that busy.
Didn't have anything to do
So-
with it.
So we're voting to send it to the planning board.
They just
Have a
decided.
public hearing in September 18th.
That is tentative if the planning board delivers it back to us.
If not, you'll know that publicly again, we'll set the public hearing for the second meeting on.
What time of those meetings?
Generally, there's 7:30 planning board meetings right down the hall.
Thank you very much.
Right now, it's scheduled for 7:30 next Thursday night, a week from tomorrow.
Can you ensure
the September 18th meeting, that if everybody has their meetings, that we, on the public websites, these agendas and the minutes of these meetings are posted. Because we have meetings that are not posted from July 3rd, the minutes and things of this nature have been jumped, and the minutes have not been submitted on the website, along with the planning board and their minutes. Can you ensure, before this goes any further, those meetings are published, the minutes on the website, and allow us 2 or 3 weeks to review all of this, so we can make a real public comment to what is going on?
Well, you,
Deb, how far are we on the minutes right now?
Where is July 3rd?
Yeah, where's July 3rd?
Okay, well, obviously take a look.
They weren't there this morning.
Okay, then we'll try to get that on there tomorrow, if they're not on there. And I believe you on this, you know, I didn't look myself, so I can't say they're not there. You're working on the last meeting right now, okay? So potentially this meeting should be on there in the planning board meeting before the next council meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
no, the minutes won't be up there because they won't be approved.
Oh, okay, so they're always gonna be a month behind.
But then how can we make decisions?
Because you, sir, you have the ordinance, that's really what you need. The minutes of the meeting, to be honest with you, I'm not gonna tell you.
They don't list public comments.
But there is another area, sir. All right, the voice recordings are available tomorrow.
Almost
for this
today.
meeting.
Absolutely, that's.
Right now.
To go to the hall, listen.
We can listen.
I don't
Can we
think
get a copy?
You can get it up, yes, you can pay for the 75 cents, whatever the cost is.
Yeah.
And
These ladies have been recording them too for the last, at least since Sandy, right?
You can get those archived.
and she's recording also the planning board meetings.
Correct. They're doing all.
Sir,
As much as I can.
the planning board meetings are
So
also
you can
being
watch them
Thank
the
you,
next
Karen.
day, in theory, or at the same time.
Yes,
Okay, everybody else got it.
Can I get a legal definition of spot zoning, so when I go into the meeting tomorrow night?
Tomorrow night's a zoning board meeting, not the planning board meeting.
Okay.
It's a week from tomorrow,
Okay.
to be
The
clear.
next meeting, I would like the legal counsel to give me the legal
You
definition
know,
of spot zoning, which
I-
this town would support.
I spoke to Mr. Fugue about this last meeting, and to be honest with you, I forgot that has the definition, so I don't want to do it off the top of my head. And I don't know what you mean by what the town will support.
Well, because by definitions, I'm not an attorney, but spot zoning is illegal. It's been weighed upon by the higher courts, and what we're proposing is to do a spot zoning.
Well, that's your conclusion.
It's not my opinion.
Well, apparently you've spoken to somebody then.
I've spoken to several people.
Okay, so you don't need my opinion then.
I
The council does,
stand legally on
apparently.
that.
I
You're the council, I'm asking you.
I provide advice to the borough. I'm not going to give a definition off the top of my head of spot zoning, which is a very specific legal principle, which you apparently have spoken to an attorney about already, and you've said you've read cases about it. So it's not fair to ask this council to agree to some definition
I'm
of
not
spot
asking
zoning.
them to agree to anything. I'm asking you, as an attorney, what is your definition, as you understand it, what is spot zoning? Simple question.
Several cases define spot zoning, and I'm not going to utter a definition of spot zoning without having the case in front of me. I'm not going to give my interpretation.
Thank you.
Okay. So, the office on the table move to introduce and pass, second by Mr. Redmond. We have a roll call.
Ryan?
And this is for September 18th, public hearing.
This is moving it forward to have the public hearing and send this back.
We're just sending
We're
it,
not
this is moving to the
voting
planning
on
board.
it. Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Redmond?
Yes.
Mr. Clancy?
No,
Ms. Payne? Yes. Mayor Moore?
Yes. Second one is 1326. We want to set a public hearing, move it, set a public hearing for September 18th.
That would be contingent, Mayor, on publication date. There's a 10-day period between introduction and adoption, and the 10-day starts at the publication date. So that would be, my recommendation might be go to the next meeting.
So that's what, October 2nd?
Move on.
Yeah.
So R 1326 is October 2nd. I'll offer that.
Mayor Moore?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Clancy.
Yeah, but that was not Mr. Francie, that was Mr. Redmond. Ms. Ryan says yes.
Mr. Redmond?
Yes.
Mr. Francie?
Yes.
Ms. Kane?
Yes.
Mayor Miller?
Yes. We'll get the public forum. We'll get to it right now. We're doing committee reports. Finance, Steve?
Two things. Today, we received $2.363 million from FEMA on our CD loan application, which supports line items within the municipal budget and the sewer budget. And also, we received final payment from the county on the workforce development grant that ran through July. So we are paid in full by the county on that grant.
Okay.
Thank you, Steve. Chief, public safety, you have anything?
No, because we gave a report 2 weeks ago, I was going to say well on the
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Hill, fresh back from vacation.
Yes, it's great to be back. I went to Toronto for a week, so if you've never been there, it's a great city. A lot of travel on a train. Anyway, I just want to touch base on, we're still working with FEMA with reimbursement and also project worksheets. We are tending to South Bay Avenue lift station for some mitigation, Waterwitch Avenue lift station, the community center project with proposals on mitigation, the PPDR program, which is changing as, I don't know if anyone's been keeping up with the papers on how communities have gotten a little sidetracked with this PPDR. They initially stated that any homes that were 51% or more damaged could potentially be eligible for PPDR removal. That's really not the case. So we're working through identifying and re-identifying properties that were damaged by Sandy, and we're working with FEMA to hopefully get that program underway as well. We also have a small pump station on Barbary Avenue, which actually just pumps water up to Shore Drive to Drain. That's also another project that's FEMA eligible, and we're getting price quotes in on that as well. The FEMA Disaster Recovery Coordination Teams, they've been holding their meetings. I think it's been a pretty aggressive schedule. They're on target, and if you need information on that, you can call me, but there's many steering committees. I can't even really keep up with the number of meetings they've had because they've been holding them consistently, and I believe there's still 5 or 6 active committees meeting on a weekly basis. The workforce development program, as Mr. Pfeffer alluded to, we did get an extension to the grant as well. There was a slight holdup with the union contract, but we were able to hire at the last meeting additional workforce development personnel that's going to help us through the next couple of months. Department of Public Works has asked, as a reminder, that bulk and brush pickups are scheduled throughout the month of September. Zone 1, and you have to look at the zone map because I don't know it off the top of my head, basically was the week of 9/3. Zone 2 was this week, or going into next week, 9/9. Zone 3 will be the week of 9/16, and Zone 4 will be 9/23. It is sort of an anomaly on the calendar, but we do both bulk and brush pickup during this month, so it's pretty heavy schedule for the guys. So we just ask that you make sure that you're tying things up or bundling things appropriately and not putting out construction debris and other things that aren't considered bulk pickup. DPW's been doing a lot of work. As everyone knows, the growing season's been tremendous. They've been overwhelmed from time to time with the amount of grass and things that have crept up, but they're trying to keep up with it. We also worked on various storm drain projects, and we did have washouts along Chestnut and Oak Street that we're tending to with the engineer, and also, as mentioned at the last meeting, Bayside Drive. Under Building and Housing, the Construction Office did give me an updated report through August 19th. 165 permits were issued, $61,400 in fees were received. That was from the period of 7/1 through 8/19 of last month. Inspection details included 158 building, 164 electrical, 101 plumbing, and 7 fire inspections. Code enforcement gave me an update through the beginning of August of 34 CO inspections completed. There were 9 additional summonses issued for property maintenance violations. Mercantile license letters were sent out to businesses that were operational after Sandy. Only one non-compliant summons had to be issued at that point. So those that were notified that they were non-compliant, we tried to work with the business community, understanding if you weren't coming back with a mercantile or you weren't reopening, we weren't going after that type of license. But some people, they did reopen and they had to apply for the mercantile license. The summer recreation program was very successful. They had 115 children registered. The program did end on August 16th. The state did send us a little recognition that they congratulated us on our 35th year of participating in the USDA Summer Food Service Program for children. I think we're one of the longest continuous operating programs at the same location, except this year we moved up to the school. But they did recognize that we've been involved with that program for a number of years. Teen nights have been very successful. We had summer basketball and baseball camps. I did mention to the council, and the season is over, but we did have a lifeguard shortage this year. CPC Behavioral Health Services continues to provide programs and counseling in the community, and I believe they are working through the school now as well to offer additional programs through the school. The flu shot clinic. I knew I'd find it, Ms. Bucko. I knew I had it somewhere. The flu shot clinic is being held Thursday, September 12th, 2013, from 11 a.m. to 12 noon at the TAC Towers. If you're interested in the flu shot, you should go to the Monmouth County Regional Health Commission website. It gives you the full detail. It's not free, but if you are Medicare, I believe Medicare does cover. I think adults, if you need the flu shot and you don't have that type of insurance, I think it's $17 for the flu shot. We used to schedule appointments a lot, but the availability of the flu shot anymore has been, I guess, pretty prevalent. So the crowds have been less, but it's been a good program. Under the administration, Fort Hancock did have the advisory committee meeting back in the first week in August. I really strongly suggest anyone who wants to keep up with what's going on out at Fort Hancock with the potential, it's forthancock21stcentury.org. That's forthancock21stcentury.org. There's a website with a lot of information about what's going on out at Fort Hancock with the potential reuse or potential redevelopment out at Sandy Hook. That is a federal advisory committee. Both the mayor and I do sit on that committee. We were nominated and selected. So it's been pretty interesting what's been discussed. But if you go on the website, all the minutes are there, all the information's there. They are seeking input from any organizations and individuals who potentially have an interest of perhaps using a building out there for any purpose. So if you know of any nonprofits or groups, it's the time really to get in touch with those folks as well.
The next meeting is September 20th.
Right, that's an open public meeting, and I think that's out
at the chapel.
Yeah, at the chapel again. The distribution center, we touched briefly
Right out
on.
Sandy Hook. All the way to the end of Sandy Hook.
We are consolidating down and coordinating the step down of the distribution center. We do have material items still left. We're reorganizing what we're doing internally. The new workforce development staff will be involved with that process. If anyone wants to volunteer, I suggest again, please let me know if you want to be part of that process and we'll work with you. Jersey Central Power and Light has contacted us and they've re-identified the critical facility elements in town, meaning our pump stations, our police department. Oddly enough, on their old list, they had 4 locations. I think one was the old Borough Hall Annex that we haven't been in 15 years. So those updates now, we have all of our critical infrastructure plus the temporary borough facilities listed with JCP&L. Twin Lights Historical Society did approach me. I want to let the governing body know they're going to be making a real strong push for their program in 2014-2015. It's going to be a special exhibit revolving around the Pledge of Allegiance. It's going to be called The Seeing Stars, commemorating the Pledge of Allegiance, and Sandy Hook did play Twin Lights did play a significant part in that. There was a ceremony way back when. So they're really going to be playing that up as an exhibit, and they would like the town support, and they'll be reaching out to us as they develop those plans for next year. And that's it. That's all I have at this point. Thank you.
Tim?
Yes.
I didn't hear a schedule on Bayside Drive. What are you repaving and
Let's go.
Sure. I can answer that, Mr. Francie. I got the revised cost today from the contractor to remove the material that was in question. So I'll be presenting a change order to the council next meeting.
And that cost is,
$78 a ton. So you're looking probably in the neighborhood of about $20,000 upcharge.
and it's scheduled to happen when?
Well, if I need,
My concern is, I'm absolutely confident you're gonna be telling us that the work can't happen because the asphalt plants will be shut down.
well, then your confidence is wrong.
Huh?
Your confidence is wrong. Because they don't close down till Christmas, Chris.
Okay.
All right.
Christmas is coming.
Well, so is everything else.
Christmas is coming.
All right, and so is Easter, and so is New Year's Day, and everything else.
All right.
All right, this will be done.
We are going to have at the next meeting, dollars and cents on the schedule, correct? Mr. Luker?
Yes, absolutely.
Ms. Ryan, library and.
Okay, well, ordinarily I would be going on the library, but I haven't since last October. Because we don't have library, because we do not yet have used the community center, and that's what I want to use this time for, to talk about that. All of the town buildings were destroyed during the storm, and some were in much worse shape than the community center, but they were all lumped in together because they are all town buildings. And I have been down there with Mr. Hill and with some various groups who have wanted to rehab the building. And I think it's time now that let's go push for that. We don't know what's going to happen with the police station and the borough hall and everything else. We don't know. But I really think that the council can make a decision and say that we can rehab that community center. We need it, and it would not be that expensive to do. Whether we decide to raise it now or not, we can just get it back to
Square it off, update it,
whatever it's going to be. There are so many groups that used it. We would have this meeting there right now. If we go past 10 o'clock, we know that we have to pay a fee to use the schools. But just to show that one of our buildings is back together, I think it'd be a very good thing emotionally. I will head up that
Bring back,
subcommittee, okay? Let's bring back the community center.
First meeting in October, you have some ideas?
I will get it together and I will notice the public and I
Whatever you
will
want.
get it all
It's
together.
your baby.
Okay, all right, yes. But
And solicit groups if you need help.
okay, well, we'll get it together, but first I do need Mr. Hill to weigh in on this because I do understand that, we also had to go through our insurance company and FEMA and the regulations. I think it's possible to move the community center out of the block of all the other buildings. Mr. Hill isn't 100% sure, so I'm gonna have to be talking with him first. And if you
I
have
think
something to say now.
the community center itself will be a project that can pretty much stand alone. What we're looking at is various things. At one point, they were talking about possibly having to lift and raise that building that's on a concrete slab. Not saying that engineering is impossible. That possibly could be an option. The second thing, and FEMA's come back and they visited that building multiple occasions to let us know that because of the elevation and where we are, we may be able to do some flood proofing, they call it. So those options do include extensive lifting of utilities and things like that out of the water's harm way, because if anyone's familiar with the community center, all the utilities when the building was built were on the ground floor.
Because it never flooded.
Even in '92 it didn't.
Even in Irene.
Right, and on Irene it didn't. But that being said, the plan would be to raise those utilities as part of the flood mitigation efforts. We're being told, and I don't have the final numbers, that that'll have an equalizing impact on about the $90,000 to $100,000 flood insurance quote that we initially got.
So we got a final decision that it's acceptable to flood proofing yet?
No, that's what I'm working
We're
on.
waiting.
And you
And
have to make sure insurance.
Absolutely.
Has all their
Yes.
inspect, and they
Absolutely.
bless it, weigh in on it.
But it's time to.
Right, so that can be the next
That's-
step, we need those.
That's
two
where we're
documents.
fast tracking and that's where we're getting information on. FEMA will allow us mitigation monies on the project. They say, and if you're not familiar with the FEMA terminology, as was pre-Sandy. So they'll allow a certain amount of money up to that level. If you do additional mitigation portions, they may deem it, you could qualify for additional mitigation monies, but at the minimum, if they tell us, say they would give us $150,000 to put what was there back in place, if we exceed that, we're guaranteed at least the $150.
It's on us, right?
Yeah.
So
I
we've
think
got
the
other
plan then should be-
sources.
The plan that should be moving forward, Ms. Ryan can have a few people, however many she wants. She can solicit people who are, lined up and willing to help, like the folks that are doing VFW or things like that. And at least have a couple of choices. And then we'll know at the same time what we can do as far as lifting or water, floodproofing.
Sure.
And to make sure the insurance is weighing in, so we don't have to do one then,
Yeah, absolutely.
we do both at the same time. So you can.
So, yeah, we'll start with that, and I'll let you all know what's happening.
Can I make one suggestion that we expand
The top.
what we're thinking about and make the second floor habitable?
I said that first, that's what we're talking about.
Okay.
The whole second.
Absolutely.
Maybe
And
talking
that,
about
that never opens without having that. Okay, so that's.
I think
good.
without
So-
question, we'll want to see that. You know what I mean?
Right, so we'll move forward with that. Also with Parks and Rec is that Tim and I have been talking about getting information kiosk or board for the town, so we have both narrowed down our choices, and we'll be meeting next week, and they're going to be now.
Presented maybe at the next meeting.
Yes, and the first one will go up in Huddy Park, and we couldn't have it in sightlines. It isn't as simple as just saying we're gonna do this, it has to not block traffic, it has to be not affected by the weather, it has to have X amount of things. So we're doing that, but we're not ordering just one. We're going to order several, so we'll be ready to place them in the other places that we decide on, which most likely will be the parks and C Street.
Still in the agreement.
So we're moving forward with that.
Perfect.
All right? Great, thank you. I'm set for now, thanks,
We've got
Jay.
the next 2 weeks on the vacation.
I'm okay.
Carly, want to do items as a
Alright. For the, I have it broken up by committee.
They can't
Sure.
about
The Visual Improvement Committee, a committee under the Highlands Business Partnership. The Bay Avenue Maintenance Program began late in June due to the aftermath of Sandy, will continue through the end of October. All weeds were removed from gutters and sidewalks were cleaned, and the planters were watered on Bay Avenue on a weekly basis. HPP is looking into the cost for a professional maintenance company that may be able to come more often and perhaps expand into other areas of town for next spring. We are in the process of contacting Christmas Spectacular and to reach out to Mr. Hill for working with JCP&L. Prior to the Sandy, we had a price for 5 convenient solar outlets to replace the old timers. So we were going to make the investment, and we can coordinate that with Mr. Hill and JCP&L. We have a proposal to lease 19 holiday ornaments for Bay Avenue from Christmas Spectacular. So we're working on that now, so we're ready for, after Thanksgiving. We received orders for 4 more benches, and we will place that order when we have 10 in place. We'll also work with Councilwoman Kane and Ryan, Mr. Hill, to assist with the funding for the planned kiosks, because we did have them, a fabricator prior to the storm. We will also like to include the beaches for next year. So we'd be happy to chip in for the money we had allocated for those kiosks. And also Mr. Nolan contacting C Street for the kiosk at the terminal. For the Marketing and Events Committee, we're having our 12th annual Twin Lights Bike Ride on September 29th at 7:00 a.m. And Bike New York is soliciting donations this year for Hope for Highlands. We're going to ask the committee to be there and assist with fundraising, anyone else that can help. The VFW graciously permitted use of their space, and Bike New York will make a donation to the VFW. 13th annual Oktoberfest will be held on October 5th from 2 to 9 p.m. The rain date is October 6th from 2 to 8 p.m. We ask everyone to get involved, help out, come and have some fun. HVP has been approached to assist with the Mennonite concert by Maureen Welch and Arnie Feud for the Mennonites that were here doing a lot of work in the community. So we'll work with any logistics that we need to with the town officials
So the
to.
chief's up to date, so we're,
Yep, so that's October 12th, and I have details will be worked out with the appropriate town officials.
do we know the time yet, Carla?
More announcements to follow.
Are you guys know the time yet?
2 to 4.
2 to 4. Where's the week, honey?
We're hoping for Honey Park, we'll work that out with Mr. Dillon.
And then when you have everything final, put it on the
Appropriate
website.
officials, we'll have a press release. We thought maybe to expand it.
That's a Saturday or a Sunday? Saturday.
A special thanks to Mayor and Council, the Highlands Police Department, Fire Department, OEM, First Aid, DPW, Administrative Offices, the Highlands Rec, their partnership and cooperation for the 19th Annual Clam Fest. Despite the rain on the first night and the last-minute riot fiasco, the festival was an overwhelming success. Police Officer George Ruth and the Explorer should be commended for an outstanding job. The Explorer program is an asset to the community, and HPP would like to see their programs expanded and more visible in the community. Most of all, we'd like to thank all the volunteers for their commitment in making the festival succeed. And the Economic Development Committee report is HPP Economic Development continues to work with Mayor and Council and borough officials to encourage development by supporting and promoting the new stormwater management program. The DBIS funding should be announced anytime, was slightly delayed due to the state's fiscal budget delay. HPP continues to make economic development recommendations such as Trans Village designation and Bay Avenue redevelopment plans. One major concern is we pay close attention to post-SAMD design guidelines. Once these new incentives are in place, we'll invest in a business recruitment package promoting new opportunities, tax abatement, and relaxed zoning. As always, thank you for your support.
Thank you, Carla. Mr. Frankie, you can share your potential.
Okay, I want to speak a little bit about the Atlantic Highlands Sewer Authority. The new force main has been installed and operating for the past 3 weeks. So the final impediment to the dissolution process is eliminated. The dissolution will now proceed according to plan. There's nothing going to stop it, to hold it back. We have a meeting with the local finance board in November, but possibly December. We're on both agendas. Basically, the local finance board has to approve the dissolution, which means that the local finance board is reviewing the finances, all right, and that the reasons we put forward for the dissolution, that is, it's an economic benefit to Highlands, that is valid. They want to see the budgets. They want to see the budgets going forward. So they will sit down and review that work. DEP will review our plans to operate the system after December 31st. So they will review any of the plans quite stringently. At this point, they don't, when it comes to wastewater, sanitary sewer systems, there are no shortcuts. We have to have the people in place. We have to have the licenses in place. We have to have the procedures. We have to have the OEM plans. We have to have the capital plans. There has to be a complete package. We're working on that now. Tim, Pepper, and myself to make that happen. In terms of operating the plant after January 1st, Mayor Nolan and I are meeting with Thompson directly, all right, and they have expressed an interest in taking over the system. That would be a plan A from our point of view. Plan B is that we would get a contract operation started. That would have to go out to bid. We'd have to write up a set of specs. We'd have to write up a scope of work. But that would be Plan B. Plan C, and I hope we never get there, is that Highlands would operate the system itself. We could do it, all right, with the people in place, but we wouldn't see some of the economic benefits. So from our point of view, we have so much on our plate, operating the system itself is not attractive, all right? So that having Middletown take us over, possibly having an outside company take us over, water service, shared service with Middletown or something, we're gonna explore all of those opportunities. But the reality is, the plans have to be in place before this December meeting with local finance board. If we can't have this set up, then the solution would slide from 12/31 to end of February, all right? So we have our work to do. We're committed to get it done because there's a big benefit to us, all right? I was asked several questions at the FEMA meetings about essentially, does Highlands know what they're doing? Do they operate the sewer system? Which is a fair question, all right? Rest assured that DEP won't let the dissolution happen unless we prove to them that we have the capability. So I understand the concern, all right? It's a valid concern, but we're gonna have to pass hurdles that are more difficult than just, we say we can do it and watch us go do it and then screw up. That can't happen.
They won't allow that.
They won't let that happen. So I want to reassure everybody that this concept of taking over the system, all right, will happen under controlled circumstances. And if there are any questions about it, people can contact me. We'll be talking about it further. All right, it's all.
And it's really two separate issues. One is getting out of the sewer authority, the regional sewer authority, and then two is what we're doing moving forward. The finance board is not going to allow it to happen unless we have a real plan, a workable plan. And as Chris said, the DEP will allow it to happen. So we're not sure what the plan is moving forward, which one of those options we're going to choose. We just know we don't want to be in the regional sewer authority anymore. And if we can get something closer to what they're paying in other towns, it's a lot less for the residents.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. We're going to go to other business. I'm going to start with Ms. Ganey.
I just wanted to announce that the Harlem Fire Department is going to have a short 9/11 ceremony on 9/11 in Veterans Park at the Memorial Project there. Just if anybody feels free to come and join us at 7 o'clock. So it'll be probably about half an hour ceremony.
Thank you, Ms. Ganey. Replacement of trees.
That may still be a repeat from the last agenda. I don't know if you had a chance to.
I saw the pictures and I said, oops, and I will I'll get together with you.
Okay, no problem. Thank you, Chris.
Non-partisan petition.
Nothing to report, that should be.
Okay. So that's going to the referendum, correct? Yeah. Okay. So I'll make sure I have DOC, Valley, Portland. Mr. Lipka?
Yeah, the DOT announced that local aid grants are available, and they're actually due the 20th of September. So I would need an authorization tonight to proceed with a road you'd like to pick for that program. Some of the DOT criteria is tying into a DOT highway, which the only one we have is 36, obviously. A continuation of another road that we've done before, tying into, say, a recreational facility. One of the roads that I thought about was maybe Portland, a portion of Portland Road, going up from Highland Avenue, going up the hill. We could certainly pick another road downtown. It's basically your flavor.
Can we weigh in with you on via email, one-on-one, and like talk about it? Because obviously we've only had a couple hours notice.
No, absolutely.
We should drive the road.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a private road.
Just like I said, they're due the 20th. It doesn't take long to put them together.
Right.
But
we can have some ideas and
absolutely.
vote on it at the next meeting.
Sure.
Right?
Well, the next meeting is 2 days before.
Okay, so you have it ready without the road.
There you go, just so.
I'll just do an estimate on every road.
For free. No, the reality is, don't we have a schedule? I know things change, you gotta.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And I'll throw some ideas out
You
towards you
don't have to know off the
too.
top of your head, but
Right.
obviously we should stay in that schedule unless we had an event happen, and we
Right.
have to break that schedule. Okay.
Just back up and explain to the public what that was for the DOT.
Sure, want to say again, what the program is with the DOT?
It's a local aid grant application, basically to resurface, rehabilitate roadways around town. They come out with this every year, they being the DOT. Last year we were successful. We got 200,000 towards Shore Drive from Waterwich to the end down by Willow. We've been successful in years past doing various roadways. Woodland was one, Waterwich was one, Bay Avenue was a combination of a couple grants. So now with the grant process out again, they're due the 20th of this month, and then I'm just looking for a road to submit for the application.
And Dale, so everybody knows, is that a matching, is it a percentage?
No, it's a full, it's a full grant from the DOT. On larger projects, a lot of times they won't fund the entire project, but in the past they've been open to phasing projects.
Okay, and what is normally their ceiling dollar?
Years past, they're anywhere between 150 to 200,000.
Okay. Okay, man. No problem. Mr. Mandrop?
One question was answered on page 7. I think next year we'll get it done. The other question is, Chris, at the meeting last night, the fellow from the community affairs said we were going to talk. We also approved $30,000 for lifting the houses anymore to Dale about it ourselves.
Guys, you want to talk about that, Dale?
Sure, I can certainly talk about that. Mr. Mandrot,
Ms. Ryan just mentioned that we've got to say another one.
basically, in years past, again with prior storm events, like say with Irene, there was a process that was followed with a letter of intent that the borough had to submit, and then the borough submitted on behalf of the residents. From Sandy, they started with the same approach, a letter of intent that the borough had to fill out with a dollar value, and then midstream, what they realized, and what I realized too, is the OEM is run to the New Jersey State Police. Okay, the OEM is who handles all these hazard mitigation grants. There are literally 2 officers assigned to the New Jersey State Police to handle the entire state. Now, in the storm with the magnitude of Sandy, especially through the 9 affected counties, there's no way that they could review all those applications in a timely manner, get everything done. So what they've done is they took the same approach as the REM program that was out earlier this year, the 150,000 and the 10,000. Same approach on a different website. And basically, you have to apply on your own. The website is renewjerseystronger.org. All right, so that's RenewJerseyStrongER.org.
Can we make sure we have a link on our website?
Sure. Also, there's also a phone number. It's 855-726-3946. All right, so either one of those ways you can apply. I believe the application process is open until September 15th. A couple caveats you throw out is if you got money through the REM program, you can't get money through this. They still encourage you to apply for both, so if you applied for that one, you're still waiting on information, they said still apply for this one. You won't get money from both, but at least you have, say, a better chance of getting some kind of funding back. Also, you can't start the elevation work ahead of time. All right, that's another caveat of the program. It's a $30,000 grant. Another stipulation was that it had to be your primary home at the time of the storm, and your home can't be in foreclosure. They're not going to lift a house that's already been in foreclosure on this.
I have a question. Will you be in touch with everybody who's on your list and let them know this?
You should do an email blast.
Well, if I had emails, it'd be great. I don't have an email for everybody. But we've been talking about this at many public meetings. The word's been out there. The state's been throwing out on the newscasts and everything, and the same thing. I can certainly, if you want to get a hold of me, I can certainly give you the information. I know. No, I understand that. There's a lot of people that have already applied for this. So I was under the impression that a lot of people know this already.
How many people are we talking about?
You told us last time that we have to reapply.
I understand. How many are you talking about that you have on the list that?
I probably have 200 on the list.
Okay, can we make a letter and send it, or?
Sure, I can send a letter out to everybody.
Send a letter?
Sure.
Can we get it done this week?
Yeah.
Because the window's closed.
Yeah, absolutely. As long as we get them mailed out this week, it'll be fine. September 15th. And that might be extended.
But as of now, it's not, so we'll let it know. Let's get it out. Okay, Kim Storka?
I hope you'll bear with me. I have some softball questions for you before everybody else piles on. I was wondering if we could keep the agendas in the hallway before the meeting. I know we used to do that, but now the setup is different, we're not a borough hall anymore.
Okay.
I
I have no problem.
Even if you just put a chair out there and stack them on the chair.
Okay.
Also, I was wondering if the mayor's town hall meeting, since they're scheduled in advance, can be put on the borough calendar?
They were, and at one point it fell off, I don't know why.
Okay, can we reinstate that?
Yeah, I just got the approval for the next 3 at the last board meeting, so I'll have to send that to you.
Okay.
I don't know off the top of my head, I apologize.
I'm just curious, because it's been mentioned again, what is the status of the transit village? I know it's a long and involved process. Is that still-
We're formulating the application.
Okay.
Part of that application is sending us the trail, so that's gotta happen. By the way, I'm sorry, everybody, when we're done, please come up and sign the petition. Sorry.
And I don't know if it had been addressed before, I was out at the last council meeting. Wind and Sea, after Clam Fest on Saturday night, around 11 o'clock, we had to pull in Middletown for backup because of the crowd at Wind and Sea. And I'm just wondering if anything is being done, if the town's working with Wind and Sea to kind of control their crowd and start minimizing the behavior of their patrons.
Chief, have we had any upsurges?
Talked to Wind and Sea. They brought in, to try to help that, they brought in taxis ahead of time. We've written a lot of tickets, we had a lot of arrests. It should be done this last weekend.
Speak up, Joe. They can't hear you.
Other than that, we're going to address it next spring again with increased enforcement, hopefully through specials.
Okay. My feeling is that the town doesn't deserve this kind of treatment, especially from a bar that really wasn't damaged during the storm. And I just thought it was rather disrespectful, especially, we're promoting Clam Fest and here we are having fallen back up for the upside of town. As far as Shadow Lawn goes, I'm just wondering if there's a report. I know somebody's done some studies on rateables. I saw some numbers in your blog on the Mid-American Herald.
I got those from the tax assessor.
Okay, I'm just wondering what the flip side is. What you think the cost is going to be on the town, on the schools, on the
Well,
infrastructure?
it's interesting because the school cost is established already. So if you brought in, meaning the building, the teachers, everything else. If you brought in another 20 or 40 school kids, you would actually lower the cost per pupil, which would probably be higher now since the loss of pupils from Sandy. I don't know how many they lost, and I think that's still ongoing because that year is up, I believe, in October. So no, we haven't done just kind of thinking about it together. We haven't done a formal study on it.
Okay. Has a traffic pattern been studied? If you're putting in
Nothing was like that would happen
400
until
some odd
until
units.
someone came with a site plan. That wouldn't happen until then.
Okay. Now, what about the gentleman who says that he's going to buy it and he's going to build? I assume he doesn't have a site plan yet, even though you're throwing around 480 units?
We have
Give or
not seen the
take?
site plan yet. The reason, I'll reiterate it again, the way we got to that number is the same density as the density at East Point next door.
Okay. And the current zoning, the way I read it, is 14 units per acre, but there's a bonus of 16 units if the developer allows for a public access easement to the scenic overlook.
Okay.
Why was that not included in this 10 stories? We're getting a bigger building, but we're losing the benefit of the potential public access easement.
I don't think it was excluded. I think that's staying in there. All it's changing is the
No,
am I correct?
It's specifically,
So I'll double check that, but.
Yeah. To our knowledge,
I think
what we
that
were
was
told was
removed.
everything would stay except the density would change.
I didn't bring the ordinance with me, and now I'm sorry I didn't since I'm quoting it. But it says specifically 16 units. It doesn't, if you have 16 units
No, I'm not
per
disputing the
acre-
number with you. What I'm saying is the other stuff that isn't changed stays the same.
Right, but, and maybe we can discuss, or maybe I'll bring it to the planning board or have someone bring it in my absence. This specific paragraph on the public access easement says specifically 16 units per acre
Like a bonus.
is the bonus. So now if we're going to 32 units per acre, that bonus goes away. There's no incentive for any developer to give the public access to a scenic overlook in our town. And I think it's a disgrace that it's allowed to happen.
Okay.
I think that's all I'm
You're talking about the view shed, what we're talking about. The view shed and public access. It was a view shed / public access.
It was a the best of my knowledge, the quote is public access easement. Oh, thank you.
And I think there was something in there about the view shed.
Public access easement to a scenic overlook
Okay,
is what I recall to date.
okay.
I'm done, thank you so much.
Tony at One Scenic Drive?
Ryan?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, mine is a general question. I'm not sure you also go in depth. I
That's okay, go
apologize. But just a general question. I applaud your actions I read in the newspaper, or at least your efforts to try and raise the entire town. And
Well, what happened was, I'm going to read
no,
it
let me
again.
finish my question. It's not that
No, no,
complex. It's and I applaud it because I think the people are in danger of another storm, and I think something ought to be done. But I don't understand why around Shadow Lawn Village, we're talking to people that are here, and the landslides that I guess they've had, and the rerouting of Ocean Avenue around East Point to prevent destruction further. I guess there was some destruction to the building. Why are you willing to gamble with that?
Destruction of what building?
To East Point.
Oh.
There was damage to the foundation, and apparently I guess the guys that preceded you determined that they were going to reroute the Ocean Avenue or something and bring it up front so that they wouldn't have the instability that they were experiencing. I guess what I don't understand is you're concerned about the people with the water damage, and I understand that. But what about the people who are afraid of future slides? And you're putting up, after a zoning law that said you can't build anything but trailer parks, how can you all of a sudden put up a 100-foot building? Is it because East Point exists and it showed that maybe it might be able to go up without further destruction? I mean, what's your reasoning to gamble in that sense for the people that live in and around the park?
I don't think we think it's a gamble.
Excuse me?
I don't think we think it's a gamble. There's nothing said you had to build
Well,
just trailer
why do you
parks
think
up there.
it would never happen again, a slide? I mean, what's
There's going to
preventing
be
it?
about 200 pages of geotechnical information from the last.
Yeah, but they got actual history of the last 30 years of these slides actually
on a
happening.
40-year-old construction.
So, I mean, I would believe history more than I'd believe prognosis of what might happen. You're doing that with the water. Why don't you just say there'll never be another hurricane?
Oh, we can't say that, obviously.
Well, you can't, and you can't say there'll never be another slide. So that's what I don't
Correct, we
understand.
can't say either way.
I know, but on one, you're willing to gamble, and on the other, you're not obviously gambling. You're trying to protect the people from
We don't think it's
the
a
water.
gamble, but, you know.
I just don't get it, other than the fact you want some revenue and you're willing to risk it.
Okay, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
John from 52, I don't know what the street, I'm sorry.
52 Barbary Avenue.
There you go,
John
John.
McAleer.
It says B, it looked like an L, sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah.
A couple of questions. It may be pointed more to Dale, more particularly. I believe the building inspector issue was answered. I'm sorry. They're all kind of related. I believe the building inspector issue, the part-time building
It's for
inspector.
recording, sir. It's not amplification. Go ahead, John.
I believe the building inspector issue was at least partially answered at the last building. We were told they were pretty much just walking around with the inspector and that they didn't have to have any qualifications. I'm still not really thrilled with that answer. If we are hiring a part-time inspector, I'd like to find out they have some sort of qualifications. More to the point, since the house has been dropped in town, are we looking more closely at contractors that are doing work in town? Are we going over plans that have been submitted? I don't want to see anybody slow down on lifting their house. We lifted our house in between Sandy and Irene, which we were told another storm would not happen, but we know that is not true. In particularly, and I don't know if that person's here tonight, there's a house on 2nd Street that appears to be entirely supported by steel lolly columns. Is that usual construction practice, and is this safe? And what other similar processes are going on in town?
I know the house, I think it's 46 or 49.
That's right, it's in the
It's
40s.
one of those,
and
yeah, I saw
it's
it
like
too.
something you'd see in your basement.
You gotta look twice at it. The
I would
process,
hope you would, Dale.
I tell you what.
All right, come on, don't bring yourself up to that.
Well, the process is twofold. From my point, and all I'm looking at is from floodplain zoning, all right? Once it gets to the actual construction of the building, the structure of the building,
Okay.
that's strictly up Paul Vitale. That's his jurisdiction.
Okay.
All right, my jurisdiction kind of leaves at that point.
Okay, that's fair.
All right, what we do require is, especially like in a V-type construction, that an engineer or an architect signs and seals those plans. Basically, they are certifying that the foundation they're designing is strong enough to withstand that house. Now, what happened down on Locust Street was something different. It was the methods of lifting that took place.
Right.
Regardless, it was still an issue. It was still an issue that none of us ever want to see again. None of us didn't want to see in the first place.
We were lucky we didn't have a loss of life.
Absolutely. There's no doubt about it, or an injury for that matter. You know, how that happened is still, it's an act of God that there was nobody injured. You know. But yeah, there's definitely.
But even when we submitted our plan, so then my question is really more to Paul Vitale, perhaps. When we submitted our plans,
right,
he still had the option to say to us, I don't agree with the engineer or the architect's findings, and I don't believe this is safe, and I don't believe that this is appropriate.
Yes.
I just am curious as to whether we are looking at things more closely. Now, maybe I'm wrong. I do not have a background in engineering or construction. But that property, seeing that, scared the bejesus out of me.
Myself and Rebecca started this conversation on site with them. Basically, to come up with a plan to do a pre-lift meeting before it.
Right.
I'll tell you why too. We want to make sure that all the documents are current at that point, meaning the insurance certificate from the contractor, and more importantly, you hit the nail on the head. When you did it, there wasn't many houses. Now there's thousands. There was a conversation that day that there might be a subcontractor involved. So we want to make sure that the person and the resident is on vacation in this case. So
Right.
they don't really know who's showing up to do their lift, right? So we want to make sure that the person that the resident hires is the person doing the lift, and that's ABC is subcontracting to XYZ.
No, and I understand to a certain extent that some lessons are learned the hard way, and not as hard as they could have been, thank God. But we've got properties that are in progress. Are we going back, are we looking back and making sure we don't have another tragedy in the making? There's another one on Shrewsbury that is a little frightening to look at, where they basically had sonotubes that they poured concrete. Again, I don't know how to do the math, but it's not like anything I've ever seen in a coastal area. And you do wonder about the safety of something like that. Is there any sort of look back being done?
Those are all approved and done by engineering. Those are already signed off and sealed.
Understood, but they're still in progress. Or do we have any intention of looking back on anything? Okay.
Moving forward, pre-lift is a pre-lift meeting is going to be probably what we're going to do. They sign off on it, they hire the person, they bring back the seal, everything gets approved, and then we have a pre-lift meeting to make sure the guy that person hires there, all their stuff is current, and that they're actually doing it.
I mean, there are periodic inspections that are done, as we all know, right? You have to inspect the footings and so forth and so on. So we have opportunities during the process to stop something that's untoward.
That's great.
I'll leave that one. Code enforcement, this kind of rolls into Arcadia, and I apologize if it was addressed earlier in the evening. I know there was an Arcadia presentation that was tabled a week or two ago. Where are we with that? We're surrounded by abandoned houses that haven't been touched. As I've said, banks are mowing lawns, but they're not going inside the properties and mitigating.
In some cases, the citizens are mowing the lawn.
And that's fine, and if it's their property, kudos to them for doing
The
it.
neighbors.
Well, they shouldn't have to. Next door to us, we have an abandoned property. We know the owners have walked away. We've had a couple of odd people show up in the last week or two. They had keys. They said they were given permission by the bank to go in because they were debating whether or not to. They were hired by a construction firm. They're looking at the property. They're thinking about. They're making a determination whether they want to bid on the property and rehab it. Except that the last guy said, "Man, I went in there and it's black mold all the way up into the second story." Hey, he should know the risks, but my understanding is that was on a list to be demoed, that property. So where do we come into play here as a town?
It's a case-by-case situation. We also have banks that are coming in and getting, notifying our PD that they're going into houses, trying to make evaluations.
Well, how about they go into the houses and clean them up? Or we
That's
start
probably
finding,
the process. They
I
have to
mean,
know what they're cleaning.
where do we stand with
Like the guys
Arcadia?
that went into the black mold house, they couldn't clean that up. They couldn't do that day. It's got to be specially done, and they have to know that from the company that they're hiring.
Right, but again, we're coming up on the first anniversary, and so where are we with the Arcadia process, and when can we expect to see some of these properties taken care of,
As I
mitigated?
explained earlier, the process that was in place initially FEMA had made a determination of properties that were 51% or more damaged were potentially eligible for demolition. That's not the case.
Okay.
So if you're a structural engineer, because that's what needs to take place, and we've been going around with FEMA, I've spent many, many hours with them, our construction officials gone around with them, trying to make the case for each property on that list, and that's where we stand with that. As far as the bonding and putting the money in place, that's what's in the process for Arcadis.
Now, in the interim, because we know this is a lengthy process, I understand that. In the interim, what are our legal options to force property owners, in particular banks, to do the right thing and clean the properties up? I mean, this is a property that they're looking to sell, obviously. So they're not going to sell a house that's being demoed. I don't know. Where do we stand legally with this? Can we find out? And are we not fining people for not cleaning it up? Because there are places that haven't been touched.
Well, we have a process in place that we adopted several ordinances over the last year to effectuate that process. In terms of that specific house, I don't know where that is.
Right, no, I understand. Okay, and I know there were some issues with the code enforcement person, but are we handing out violations? Have any new ones been done?
That I do not.
The last report
Can we
that
do that on those properties, I guess is one of my questions.
Are you legally permitted to? Yes.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, two of the places that were contacted, and we said, we have to knock down the building up to and including the property. Go ahead, we're upside down on the ground.
And if they're not willing to clean up, we can't fine them?
Oh, you can.
We're looking for money. We're looking to put a high-rise on the hill.
But John, fining people, you have to fine about $500,000 in fines, then go to court and collect it and spend how many places. Doesn't mean we're not going to pursue what we have to pursue, but finding your way out of, and cutting costs out of your way out of the problem is not, we have to earn our way out, hence a high risk. Melissa?
Melissa McAleer, 52 Barbary. So I'll start with an easy one as well. I'll start with an easy question as well. There are a couple proposed bond notices, and there is a section that refers to Section 20 costs. Can someone let me know what that means?
That would have to be the CFO. He had to leave, but I'm sure he'd be happy to talk to you.
So there's a full cost, the cost of the grant, and then a Section 20 cost. No, this is on every single one of the notices for the bond. Okay, so we don't need it. So my next question is actually a follow-up to my husband's question. So there is a bond ordinance 01323 for $2.3 million for the cost of the demo homes, and I think that's what you were referring to, the Arcadia one. Where are we with publicizing the list of those homes? Because I think if we are covering a large portion of that money from the bonds, then I think it's fair for us as a town to understand exactly which properties are on that list.
And as I just explained, we're going over that list. That initial number was based on probably 100 or more homes, based on the criteria that FEMA had explained to us at 51%.
So they get
It's no
reimbursed
longer
for
the
the bond.
case. So the 51% substantially damaged is no longer, and some towns are in a quandary. If you've read the papers recently, they went ahead and moved forward with that, the demo properties, finding out that they weren't structurally deemed unsound, and now they're not being reimbursed for taking down those properties.
Okay, so what's the ETA on actually having the final list?
We're working with FEMA every day. I can tell you the number has gone down probably below 50.
What are we doing with the rest of the properties then? Are going to sit vacant?
That's a whole different question that has nothing to do with PPDR, and we can't use that money to demolish those homes. It's illegal.
Okay, so we need to find another legal means then to mitigate those
We have to,
properties.
as said many times through substandard housing and other, we have to put money forward initially out there to cover the cost of demolishing the home.
And now it could be triple digits. Where in
Okay.
the past it was,
We can't just arbitrarily say we're going to knock down 20 homes this year. We have to have 20 homes times maybe $30,000 in the budget to do that. can't just do it and say, we're gonna lien the properties. That's not the way it works.
And the way it happens too, just so you know, we had a list of over 100, like Mr. Hill said. I believe the number last week I saw was 41, if I'm not mistaken, with a potential to appeal another 40.
What is the percentage that are bank owned? Do we know that?
Off the top of my head, I'd probably say 60 to 70.
But is it information we could actually have?
Does that include black mold all the way up to the top?
I don't think that's structured, right?
Yeah, that's
No,
not
accounting,
considered structure.
So it doesn't matter if it's a health hazard?
Not that it doesn't matter, but they won't fall into that category.
And the health department has not even weighed in, and that's still,
Right, and the animals living in them and.
but I'm saying when it comes
He
to
would have been
mold
there
issue,
when
there's still a
Middletown
debate.
and, EMS went into that house, that the ones that were, damaged from the other house and what ran out of there.
I don't doubt it, but I don't want to live next to it.
I agree with you, me neither. 8 feet of water was in that house.
So no ETA on the actual list, because I keep asking for it, and I just
Well, I
heard
can't
that
give you a list that I don't have, and I'm not gonna give you a fictitious list to create controversies of,
No,
or
we
they're
wouldn't
100
expect
down
that.
to
No, I'm
50
just
down to
asking for an
30.
ETA, that's
Okay.
all. So I'll table it to the next meeting. My next question is with respect to R13190. So the attorney had corrected that this really should have been referring to 3 homes that were demolished. Now, I actually happened to be biking past, and I actually had a chance to do a video of the entire demo. So my first question is, who exactly, just to double check, is the construction official? Is this Dale or is this someone else?
All they know.
Okay, so I guess, how was it determined that all 3 houses, what was the criteria that was used to determine that all 3 houses, particularly the 3rd house, which I believe is owned by Bullerman, was actually demolished as well as part of that process?
He makes the call on site because the second one obviously got hit. First one
Right.
dropped, second one got hit, and the second one's chimney was waiting. So he made the call on site that in the process of tearing that down, it would damage the 3rd one, which was abandoned and not remediated, and to clean all 3. And I was there, and Becky, we agreed with him. I don't want to put words
I
in
just,
your mouth.
the video that I took did not see any potential danger for it, but, okay. One other question, and that is actually on behalf of a colleague. Where are we with the nonpartisan petition and sending that to Freehold?
There's a withdrawal period where the petitioners are entitled to withdraw the petition. We cannot notify Freehold until that period expires. I spoke with the attorney today and I said, if you want to send me a letter saying that we don't intend on withdrawing it, you don't have to wait for the withdrawal period. I said, if I get that letter, I'd be happy to send the letter. It's on my desk waiting to be sent. I just can't by law send it until you have that right to withdraw.
Do we know when that letter is coming? Tomorrow. Okay, great, thank you. That's all.
Maureen Welsh?
Yeah, I quickly skimmed over the difference between the 2 ordinances, and what I see is it's 80 or 85% the same. The only changes I see is on the setback and on a clear distinction on the height. Are there other changes that I missed, or are we essentially killing one ordinance and putting one that's 85% the same?
Those
What
are
are
the
the
only
differences?
changes right now. Now it's going to the planning board and they can recommend more changes. As they did with the setback.
So all of the feedback that was given to the last meeting, you never considered rewriting it to be a mid-rise?
No,
And there
it's
was-
already a mid-rise.
Pardon me?
It's already a mid-rise.
Or a mid-rise with higher density. I mean, it's still a high-rise, so it's still 90% of the issues that were brought up in the public session are not being addressed. So when you said that there's a new ordinance because it's addressing the public, what
No, we
is
said
being
it's addressing
addressed?
some of the comments that were made. and we
Some
did.
of it? Okay.
Absolutely.
My second question is, because I can see that this is gonna be, it's gonna go back and forth and back and forth, and there's language in the ordinance that says, that the governing body can determine what is in the best interest of the municipality. Do you have any kind of responsibility, whether it's legal or just ethical, to share with the residents what criteria you're using to determine what is in the best interest of the taxpayers and the other citizens of the town.
My
And
rec-
are you going to share any of the information with us as you, go through the process?
My recommendation, Mayor, would be to wait till the public hearing on this, okay? And listen to questions like that. Because there's a lot of process left. There's going to be planning board comment, there's going to be public hearing at the planning board. So,
county comment.
But the last public meeting, we asked a bunch of questions and none of them were answered, so what's gonna be different the next time around?
It's a one-way street here.
We're just gonna keep going through this process for the next 5 years.
Yeah.
Till everybody here is gone.
And I thought you said you were going to answer the questions when you.
When we voted, we did say that, correct.
But
But
you
you
didn't
published
answer
it
the
in the Atlantic
questions. There were
Highlands
about 30 questions that were not answered
Okay.
with respect to that specific ordinance. You voted and you didn't answer the questions. Instead, you wrote another ordinance that's 85% of the same thing.
Well, I don't think it's fair to say it's 85% the same. There's
Okay,
substantial
make up
change.
the number, 75%. It's
10%. I'll say 10%.
Word for word, that's crazy, that's crazy.
Well, look, you're talking about an ordinance that you're going to have 2 public hearings on and a public comment by another governing body. It's not. This isn't the proper time to have a discussion
It is
about
the proper
ordinance.
time. because
When is the proper
When
time?
is it, we
You're
just,
out of order. You know when your turn is. You know what the rules are. Let Ms. Welch speak. You and your husband took a lot of time. There's a public hearing. The governing body spent a lot of time at the last meeting, and they voted down your ordinance. They voted down the ordinance that you guys didn't want. They addressed it. You're out of order, sir. I'm speaking. I'm speaking. I'm answering Ms. Welch's question.
You're out of order.
This is a public hearing. This is not a public hearing. This is public comment. I'm responding to questions. If people are going to interrupt and speak out of order, sir, you're out of order. If you continue to interrupt, I'm going to ask to have you removed. Mrs. Welch, this is not the proper time for these comments. You can speak and say whatever comment you want, but my recommendation to the governing body is not to respond to these questions until the public hearing on the ordinance is introduced tonight following receipt of comments from the planning board.
but then help me clarify, because maybe I'm the only one in the room, but you gave us an opportunity last week to offer our questions, but you never answered them. So then you're saying now don't answer the question because it's not the right time. It
Because-
seems like no time is the right time.
Well, no, now there's
Because we keep asking questions and not getting answers. So if you can just clarify, when would be the right time that we can ask questions and expect answers?
At the public hearing, because you ask questions on an ordinance that's no longer in existence. So you want the governing body to answer questions based on an ordinance that no longer exists. And I'm not going to have them do that.
So then we just start over
Yes.
and go through the cycle again.
That's what you asked for. You opposed the ordinance. This governing body voted no.
They
Why
voted
do you
no,
not
wrote
think
one
they
that was very close to it.
Well, that's your opinion that it's very.
I think it's a lot of people's opinion.
Well, I'm sure it is.
Okay. Marty?
The one for Arnie View, 50 Valley Street. In one meeting, this e-biz loan that was proposed, and it was said that the businesses were going to pay $500,000. Was that ever clarified to the public?
It was at the last meeting.
And what was the outcome? Who pays for the bond?
Who pays for the borough's ultimate responsibility?
The borough was held responsible. Does that mean that the taxpayers are going to be assessed for it, or the businesses?
That I can't answer.
Everybody.
Okay, all the people.
Townwide. And some of the business owners are.
Yeah, but I mean, it went from, when it was proposed the first time, the question was asked, who
That was
pays for
stated
it, or it was
erroneously at
explained
that
that
meeting,
the
I believe they
business.
said that at the last meeting too.
Okay, so the people have to pay.
Correct.
Okay. Now in here, there's mitigation against Captain Cove Marina. Is that threatened litigation, or is it actual litigation?
There's no litigation filed against Captain Cove or against the borough like that.
Okay, because there has still not been any code enforcement at that place?
That's not true. There's fines and everything else, and there's court date set.
Okay, thank you.
There's daily fine.
It's actually daily fines and court date is set.
And I told you that, Mr. Fugue, after the last meeting.
Okay,
Carol
Carol
told me
Buckle.
that it was threatened litigation.
Carol Buckle.
And then
288
what
South.
about the petition, excuse me, I have one more.
I'm sorry, I'm deaf.
The petition for the high rise that we submitted, was the area and the signatures approved?
I thought you said it at the last meeting.
No, no,
I'm
no.
sorry.
This is for the high rise.
It's for the high rise.
It would force
I-
a majority.
That would have to force a majority, but
Force
they
a
honored
supermajority.
that, but we didn't have the results of the signatures.
I'll have to speak to the clerk, she's on vacation today, but I'll double check that for you.
Okay, because it went to the engineering department.
No, it didn't.
Arnie, I believe
I
it
was
was,
told that she couldn't do the verification and that it would be sent to the engineering firm for verification.
Never came to
Told you
me.
that.
Carolyn Company.
Okay.
But it was never
I have
submitted
no
to
idea
you,
why she
Dale?
sent that to me.
I'll talk to her, and if you want to call me tomorrow, Friday.
Okay.
Arnie, I believe it has to have a supermajority.
No, but the signatures,
We need to know.
no, we needed to get a petition that was 200 feet around Shadow Lawn,
Okay.
signed by enough acreage, there was an acreage formula.
Right.
And if there wasn't the acreage approved, then you wouldn't have had to vote on it. You went ahead and voted on it, assuming that the area was covered. And the reason I'm asking is if this goes to another ordinance, we have to get another petition signed to go forward. So this is.
So you gotta know tomorrow, basically.
Okay,
Okay.
but it's
So you
important.
can-
Yes.
Carol, can you run that tomorrow? That's only fair. Carol, Dr. John, Carol,
Yes, at any time, this high-rise is approved by the planning board and this board, what is the procedure for people in the town to put this on a voting referendum?
I don't know, is there a procedure for that?
I don't know if there is a procedure. And I don't know, the question is a little unclear. The ordinance votes, if this ultimately is approved, it permits a use. It doesn't permit and a size. It doesn't permit or approve any specific project. There's a separate procedure for that.
Like site plan and plan.
I'm saying, wherever it is approved in a high-rise construction.
Okay. Well, I mean, if you are looking for advice on the legal procedure to challenge what the borough does, I can't give you that advice. You need your own attorney.
There's no set procedure.
I don't think.
I
it's on the
represent the
political
borough. I
referendum.
can't give you legal advice.
I'm saying, no, the borough, there's no set procedure.
The borough, I'm not sure. I'm trying to explain that I can't give you legal advice that you're going to use to challenge my client. The borough.
I'm asking if the borough has a procedure in place.
No, there's nothing to go to referendum for that. The things that go to referendum are usually a petition based on some type of form of government or way to do it.
Thank you.
No problem. Doug Card?
Yeah, code enforcement, as the town explored hiring a full-time code enforcement officer.
I can't hear you, Doug, sorry.
Code enforcement officer, we have a part-time code enforcement officer that gets paid $6,000 for a part-time job. Obviously, the communities need, and Dale and company and Paul, and we explored hiring a full-time code enforcement officer. Making a full-time position.
Have we explored it? Yes. We're still in the talks with it. The other consideration we have is with the advent of the new healthcare system. It's an extreme cost if someone goes to 30 hours. Yeah, that's a reality.
There's evidence that healthcare is given, but that's.
It's not in part-time employment.
I understand, but basically it's time to explore full-time.
We are. We absolutely are talking about it.
Second, just curiosity, the consolidation of resources of buildings. Who actually owns this building and the high school?
My understanding, or it's educated guess, is that it's two different entities. This would be owned by the Highlands Board of Education, that would be owned by the Regional Board of Education.
That's what I
It's
was.
two separate entities.
You're talking about consolidating what? These two
Well,
buildings?
for example, like we're not in a financial position to build a new police department or a town hall, which we do need. Well, we have a high school that does sit primarily in entity. We have a student enrollment that's fallen off. We all know.
I think that there's.
Exploring how to save costs here.
I thought that there was a law against that. Is that
Okay.
correct? Ms. Ryan was on the school board too.
There is a law that you cannot have young children and teenagers educated in the same building, meeting the same corridors. The idea of consolidating, wanted to consolidate. an excellent idea. We started out by, we have 3 buildings, 3 schools, 3 districts, 3 boards. It's ridiculous.
2 Brown schools.
Okay, it's a tri-district, it's a tri-district. So the first step we took, and I'm no longer on that board because I'm on this board, but the first step was to consolidate with a superintendent, which we did it several years ago, and yesterday, as a matter of fact, the new tri-district superintendent, Dr. Susan Compton, was introduced to the staff and administration. The next step would be to consolidate the boards and then to consolidate the buildings, perhaps. It's a long process. It has been looked at by all 3 of the boards, and it's ongoing, and I highly recommend that you contact the new tri-district superintendent, Dr. Susan Compton, and tell her that seriously, that it should be brought up, okay? She's brand new. The other person who just left had heard it from many people. There are some of us in the room who have been on the boards when it was spoken about, but it's not a quick and easy process, but I certainly think it should be discussed.
I have a question, so I wait for number 9.
Thank you, sir. I missed one, I'm sorry. Constance at 1 CA Drive? Sorry, miss, I missed on the first page.
I'd like to ask Mr. Padula, you mentioned earlier when somebody asked about spot zoning, that you had come across a definition of spot zoning, but you didn't have it with you. But I wonder if you could give us non-lawyers the citation for that?
It's in the Cox book. William Cox is
The land use
authoritative land use book that a lot of attorneys use and zoning boards use. And there's a section on spot zoning in there.
We did read it at the last.
William Cox.
Did we read it?
No, planning board.
I apologize.
At the planning board, it was
Sorry.
read.
We all one together.
And I'd like to echo, I guess, what Maureen said, because I quickly, scanned this new ordinance, and it does seem significantly in compliance with the one that we just voted down, in that it still contains, 10 stories, 10-story building, and 32 units per acre, etc. There is a little notation in here that I do want to ask a question about. It's on page 3, and it says, whereas it mentions the recommendations of the zoning board, but it doesn't say what those recommendations
Planning
are.
board, I think, right?
Pardon me?
Planning board recommendations.
Planning board recommendations. It says, whereas recommendation 8 concerns a recommendation to rezone the adjacent zone containing the East Point project. I'd like to know what that means.
What they were saying at the planning board was make it a whole high-rise zone in that whole area. Because it's already present at East Point.
Also, the planning board adopted a resolution, which was what that was referring to, so you could have a copy of that resolution.
Okay, I guess the other thing, and I think, again, to echo Maureen, I think what she was saying is that before any kind of approval is made, it would be helpful if all of the members of the council would indicate what their thinking is before a vote is taken.
That will happen. For sure.
I guess I'm not sure I'm being clear about that. I think it's something that should be made before the exact timing of the vote, not to say this is my statement and I vote yes or no,
Okay.
but that there should be some further discussion about what your thinking is.
I'm not going to speak for anybody else, but I've talked to several people on blogs and articles and everything else on my thinking. Okay.
I think that's it for now.
Thank you, ma'am. Kathy Eisner?
No, do you have anything else?
Thank you, ma'am. Leonard at 29 Bayside Drive?
290,
I'm sorry,
290.
290, I apologize. Go ahead, sir.
2 questions. 3013-25. Can we submit questions in writing for this ordinance prior to the public meeting? So that the council can review our questions and answer these questions directly at the meeting
You can submit questions in writing.
and confirm prior to the meeting and have the answer public at the meeting?
I can't guarantee that, but I'll look at the question.
Can you read the questions at the meeting?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Look, everyone thinks this is a big joke, but Mr. Eiler.
Oh, we don't. Oh, we don't.
He was here before. He came up and basically told everybody that whatever the council does, there's going to be litigation over this. So don't you think as the borough attorney, I need to be extra cautious with them. Knowing that anything that's said, any questions that are answered, and so I, Mr. Card, I was cautious not to answer when you asked what my opinion of spot zoning was. There's going to be litigation over this. I know that, I've been told that, and everyone's been told that. So everyone, once litigation is threatened, everyone is a little bit more cautious about what they say. And that's the reasoning behind it. It's not that people are trying to be evasive and not answer questions, but when the public threatens litigation and tells us that we're going to be sued, my job, I have to tell them to be careful what they say and what they respond to.
Just by knowing the fact that you may be sued on something like this or go to litigation or something like that, does that affect your reasoning for the going forward with this process?
No, we should every day.
It's not my reasoning, it's their reasoning, so I can't.
Can I follow up with this?
Not yet, so give everybody else a chance to answer.
I
We're gonna give everybody else a chance to answer. Jennifer Olson?
Yeah, I have a question about what the procedure is to talk to code enforcement people when there's a violation. I've written emails, and because this guy is part-time, it's been a month already.
I would contact Mr. Hill directly, ma'am.
To
Mr. Hill, the Borough Administrator. He's at 19 Bay if you can't get him on the phone.
I'll talk to you right
He'll talk
after
to you
the
after the meeting if that's okay. Anything else, ma'am? David Klein?
Yeah. I'm concerned that it's unclear to me on page 3 of the fourth whereas. The second and third recommendations is 10 stories are a maximum, not a minimum. But then the next whereas says reference to the 10-story minimum was for definitional purposes. And then in the next paragraph, it says that it's not any of those, but it's 120 feet or 10 stories, including parking structure. But then further on in the same ordinance, it says not including the parking structure, 120 feet, plus the 45 feet of the parking structure. Could y'all clarify what exactly we're talking about here? And then I have a follow-up question about the parking garages themselves. It says structured parking facilities underneath or adjacent, which I spoke of last time. I'm concerned that these structured parking facilities, to use your term, are going to be underground, which is my concern. And the reason I'm concerned about that is the only way to get something 3 to 4 stories underground is a lot of blasting, at the very least, a lot of really serious digging going on. And I wonder whether the construction tactic of blasting can be addressed specifically, or through the considered use of this ordinance, you could eliminate the use of underground parking, and specifically say underground parking where you have a 4-story parking facility, and then on top of that, you put your 10-story building. But my biggest concern is the blasting. And if we can do something to mitigate that, either by eliminating the underground structured parking, specifically in an ordinance, or secondly, putting the building on top of, which seems not an ideal place to take 4 flights of the stairs to get to the lobby and then get the elevator up. That doesn't seem like much of a building plan. Can you clarify about the 120 feet and which is 10 stories and which is 120 feet and what y'all really mean by that?
The ordinance refers to 120 feet. That's the maximum height. 10 stories is a reference to the building codes, the industry standard definitions that are referenced in there. I don't remember the exact name of where it comes from.
Okay.
But 10 stories and above is considered a high rise. So this ordinance actually permits mid-rises up to a high rise. It might be 8 stories and above as a high rise. So don't quote me on that. So this permits, two of the top 2 stories would make this a high rise under our ordinance. That's the reference to high rise, but the ordinance, when it permits is 120 feet, and not 120 feet plus 45. That is
But it says, here it says, does not including any attached parking structure.
Right, but I think you commented last time that it could be 165 feet or something like that.
Yes, sir.
That's not permitted by
But it does say here, let me find the exact quotation here on this. Structured parking 140 feet. Structured parking 45 feet. This is 10B on page 5. Parking structures may be located underneath and or adjacent. I don't mind adjacent, that's fine. But underneath is the point that I'm concerned about. And then in point A, above that, the height of residential buildings shall be measured from the floor of the building lobby or the first level that contains dwellings, whichever is lower. Now, the parking structure is underneath. That certainly seems to add 140 to 145 to 120 to give you 165.
So David, you're saying it would be more palatable if it was next door, not here.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I'm first of all, I'm concerned about the underground, more than anything else. Because you start blasting, and East Point's going to go sliding down the hill.
Well, the first thing is that East Point didn't have any blasting when that was built. Because I worked on the project.
Okay.
It was moved.
But there's only one level underground.
They've dug down further than you can think. I was there from the beginning. I worked for James Snyder and Jack Wesley back then. Okay? I saw it. There was no blast. There
How
was
far down
sand.
is it?
It goes down about 90 feet from the bottom floor.
Okay. Second follow-up or sort of summary point is, if East Point was characterized as a bad idea by certain members of the board that said that East Point was a bad idea. When it was originally...
Currently or back then?
Back then.
Oh, okay.
It was characterized as a bad idea. So in this M&H 13-25, does one bad idea deserve another?
That's your opinion. I appreciate it.
Seems like it's one bad idea following right after another.
Okay. Thank you. Linda Eckert, One Scenic Drive. I'm sorry?
Sorry, I was planning.
Okay. Lori Nolan.
Yes, I just wanted to speak on behalf of the Go Gold woman that was here with her daughter that was a survivor. She had mentioned about having decals and ribbons. If you wanted to get information on that or would like to donate to receive one, you can send me an email at loriann732@gmail.com and just put gold in the subject, and then I'll get back to you with that. The larger ones, I know she said the donation or suggested donation was $10, and then the little ones, the little ribbon, I believe, is going to be $1. And then my only other thing I would like to ask if the Borough of Highland residents could also help show support by either making some sort of a bow or any type of ribbon that is gold, maybe like Christmas gold almost, put it on your mailbox or on your door or anywhere on your house that we can just kind of show a little bit of support. This is our first year getting into it. Hopefully as the years go on, that we can more and the school itself up here in Mother Teresa are going to be a part of it as well. Okay, so I want to I'm sorry? Yes. it's-
Email again, Laura.
Lori Ann, LORIANN 732 @gmail.com. Please put gold in the subject because I have a lot of different things, otherwise it'll just go into the garbage.
Okay. Thank you, Lori.
I move that the meeting be adjourned.
Thanks for coming out tonight, Phil.
The petition is here for the